Quick question. If I told you I could predict which kids would become elite athletes before any of them had ever picked up a hockey stick, what would you say my secret was? Psychic abilities? No. Malcolm Gladwell opens Outliers with an interesting observation about hockey players. In 1984, a psychologist named Roger Barnsley was at a junior hockey game. His wife noticed something strange flipping through the program. An unusual number of the best players were born in January, February, and March. Barnsley was determined to understand the reasoning behind this. He pulled the data for the entire Canadian Junior League. The pattern held, overwhelmingly. A January-born child is nearly a full year older than a December-born child in the same age group. At 8 or 9 years old, a year is enormous in size, coordination, and confidence. The January kids get picked for elite teams. Better coaching, harder competition, and more hours. The gap compounds year after year until by their teens it looks exactly like natural talent. It wasn't talent, it was a birthday, and nobody was looking. Pull back the curtain on success and you will see exactly what's hiding behind it. Today, I'm breaking down 5 ideas from this book. Stay to the end. Idea 5 is the one that explains why 2 people with identical intelligence can end up in completely different lives. Idea 1, the 10,000 hour rule and what it actually says. Practice anything for 10,000 hours and you'll become world class. That's the version everyone quotes. It's also not quite what Gladwell said. Before Beatlemania, the Beatles played at Hamburg 7 nights a week for years. By 1963, they had performed live together over 1,000 times. Most bands never hit that number in an entire career. In 1968, Bill Gates' school had a computer terminal at a time almost no university had one. He programmed obsessively, skipping sleep for more hours on the machine. The time he dropped out of Harvard, he had experience that no one his age could match. The terminal, the Hamburg residency, neither one was earned. Both were used relentlessly. Talent gets you started. Hours get you there. But the hours only happened because of circumstance. Practicing a skill for roughly 10,000 hours, about 20 hours per week for 10 years, can lead to world-class performance. However, Gladwell emphasizes that opportunity and resources are crucial. Without access to the right environment, even highly talented individuals may not be successful. Idea 2. The self-made myth. Comes from nothing, outworks everyone, succeeds on pure grit. Gladwell says that story is incomplete and the gap causes real harm. Every extraordinary success he studied had an unchosen circumstance inside it. Gates had the terminal, the Beatles had Hamburg, the hockey stars had their birthdays. None of them earned those openings, they simply used them. Here's where it stops being trivia and starts mattering. When we credit success entirely to the individual, we give them too much credit and give everyone who didn't make it too much blame. Same potential, different circumstances. One story we tell, one story we don't. Idea 3. Your birth year as competitive advantage. Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan. What do they share besides extraordinary wealth? They were almost all born around 1835. The American economy was remade in the 1860s and 70s railroads, industrial manufacturing, modern finance. That window opened once. If you were born in 1835, you were young enough to be flexible and old enough to move fast. If you were born in 1820, the new world looked too risky. Born in 1850, the fortunes were already claimed. Same pattern in Silicon Valley. Gates, Jobs, Wozniak, Schmidt, almost all born between 1953 and 1956. The personal computer revolution hit in 1975. Being in your early 20s that year was the sweet spot, deep enough in computing to move fast, young enough not to be locked into the old model. You can't choose your birth year, but you can study your moment. Consider what's being rebuilt right now in your era that you can actually position yourself to step into. Idea 4. The culture you didn't choose. This is the chapter that surprises people the most. Gladwell looks at plane crashes specifically, why crash rates vary by the nationality of the cockpit crew. The strongest predictor turns out to be something called the Power Distance Index. It asks the question, how comfortable is a culture with challenging authority? In high power distance cultures, a co-pilot who saw the captain making a fatal error wouldn't say so directly. They'd hint, soften it into a question. And sometimes the plane hit the mountain because the warning wasn't communicated to change the captain's decision in time. The culture in the cockpit wasn't the one they chose, it was the one they inherited. He finds similar patterns in classrooms, where students from rice farming cultures in East Asia consistently outperform their peers in mathematics. Rice farming demands precision and relentless year-round effort. Cultures built around it carried those values forward, long after the rice paddies stopped mattering to daily life. The attitudes you bring to your own work toward effort, authority, persistence weren't entirely built by you. They were passed down, which means the first step to changing them is realizing they're there at all. Idea 5. Practical intelligence. The skill schools don't teach. Sociologist Annette Leroux studied how children from different economic backgrounds were raised. Middle-class parents didn't just love their kids, they trained them. They taught them to ask a doctor a follow-up question, to push back politely with a teacher, to treat institutions as negotiable, not fixed. Leroux called this concerted cultivation. Working-class parents loved their children just as much, end quote. But this specific coaching, how to advocate for yourself inside systems of power, wasn't passed on as consistently. So 2 kids with equal intelligence graduate school. One has a map for how the adult world actually works. The other has equal intelligence and no map. Gladwell calls this practical intelligence separate from IQ, entirely learnable, and almost entirely shaped by upbringing. You can teach yourself this, but first you have to realize you're missing it. Let's go back to that hockey rink for a second. Nobody was trying to be unfair. No coach was deliberately picking the January kids over the December kids. The system was just quietly, invisibly built to reward an accident of birth, and everyone inside it mistook the result for talent. That's the whole argument of Outliers. Underneath all 5 ideas, success is never a solo performance. It's always a collaboration between the individual and their circumstances. Gladwell isn't writing a self-help book. He's not promising that hard work always wins. He's doing something rarer, telling you the truth about what success actually requires. And that honesty is the only place useful action ever starts from. This is a learned skill, often passed down through upbringing and social exposure, rather than a simple measure of raw, innate IQ. We can consciously develop the practical skills necessary to navigate the world effectively, rather than relying solely on luck or grit. Success is not just a solo journey, but a complex interaction between our personal drive and the cultural systems surrounding our development. Ultimately, by decoding these hidden mechanics, we empower ourselves to build more equitable paths for the next generation of high achievers. Outliers is linked in the description. Gladwell is a storyteller, first the pages move fast. Subscribe to Brief Mind Books for a new breakdown every week. Next week, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. That one will stay with you. See you then.